It's coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically, beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's a rainy day here in Danville, but a beautiful day. And I hope that you're enjoying your day as much as I'm enjoying mine. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. As you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, we can talk directly. All you have to do is enter your questions or comments into whatever platform you're watching the program on. They'll show up in my chat room here on Restream, and we can talk directly. And as I always say, that's one of my favorite parts of this broadcast. I have been busy this morning putting um, the final touches on the Corellian Book of the Dead. The last edit was completed this morning, so what I'm doing now is the last little bit of typesetting, then we'll be ordering the copies. And hello to Mary Cavalcante in the chat room. It's good to see you, Mary. And so if you have ordered it, and a number of people have, it should actually be in your hands by November 11th, give or take a day due to mailing issues. But I would expect it will be there probably, maybe even a little early. We'll see. Um, we also have recently brought out Travel Magic, which we did a couple of shows about here on Midday with Reverend Don. I imagine we'll do another one here at sometime in the future, and we have a number of other projects coming in the not too distant future that I think will be interesting. Elsewhere in my universe, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, um, I am making some changes to my Patreon. My Patreon is one of the major things that I rely on in my daily life, and I feel like some of the things I've been offering perhaps not have not been everything they might have been, but they were good ideas when I started them. So I'm changing them to some other things. One of the things that was suggested to me, and people have reacted enthusiastically toward, is the idea of my doing some readings. And we're going to be starting with Edgar Allan Poe. And I would expect that will show up sometime this weekend or Monday. And it will be our first reading, and there will be several, I think, per month. And people tell me they love my voice, and we we're going to be doing that. And you may also find readings from me coming up in some other places as well. Um, it's an interesting thing to do. I'm a great fan of Edgar Allan Poe and other 19th century authors as well. I have a high tolerance for 19th century literature, having been raised on it. But the other thing, of course, is that it's in public domain, and I can simply do a reading of it. We might do some things like Shakespeare also. I have a pretty high tolerance for early modern English, and we'll see what people like, and we will judge it based on that. Now, today, my subject for today's show is early witch school, and we will be talking about some of the origins of witch school and some of the reactions people had to it. But before that, I want to take a moment to mention Witch College, and this is the new project that I have made a 5-year commitment to in developing classes on the psychic arts, and also some on Corellian studies, and who knows where else the path may lead. And if you'd like to learn more about Witch College and what makes it a new and unique idea, you can do so at witchstarter.com. Uh, and um, we already have Psychic Academy, which is one of the branches of Witch College, already in action, and the Psychic 101 class has been going forward each week, and it has been quite enjoyable. And hello to Janet in the chat room. Good to see you, Janet. And we will have another one of those this evening. And the Psychic 101 is exactly what it sounds like. It is an introduction to the psychic arts, and it starts from the assumption that you have no background in the psychic arts and develops from there. And it is being telecast live with live question and answer sessions afterwards. The classes are being recorded for the future. The questions and answers are not, because they are unique to the situation and to the people who are present. But we're having a lot of fun doing that. And here presently, there'll be many more things coming from Psychic Academy and witchcollege.com. But going back to the origins and the early years of witch school, one of my best memories years ago in 2005, I think it was. And hello to Lynn in the chat room. Good to see you, Lynn. Uh, there was a roast of me organized in Washington State. And hello to Daviki or to Davika in the chat room. It's good to see you, Davika. And Davika sends us much love from India. Thank you, Davika. Um, and a number of people made humorous comments, as they do in roasts. But the number one comment that I heard, and of course, we are going back some 20 years, and hello to Renee in the chat room. A number of people made the comment that when they first saw the ad for witchschool.com, they went there thinking they were going to be offended, thinking it was going to be um, simplified or um, not good information. And then they actually looked at the classes and totally changed their minds. And I've always remembered that as a very positive thing. Um, I think for a lot of people, the simplicity of the name Witch School made them wonder about the content of the site. But the name was chosen for its simplicity. It was chosen to be the very first thing that would come up if you looked for how to learn to be a witch. The first thing to come up if you typed in school for witches or witch school, and it has always been that. Um, and when Witch School was started by Sir Ed Hubbard, Lisa Tuitt, and myself, but primarily by Sir Ed Hubbard. And when he started the school, there was not a lot of sympathy for the idea. A lot of people thought it could not be done. A lot of people thought it should not be done. Um, and a lot of people were simply negative in general. Um, and there were people who now run schools online who thought it was the most ridiculous idea they'd ever heard. Um, and Sir Ed got a lot of abuse really from the community when first presenting this idea. And why? Well, it was definitely a new idea, and that's what Sir Ed specializes in. It was a new way of doing things using new technology that much of the community wasn't really familiar with at that time, and it was opening new doors. Now, the other thing it was doing is that it was breaking down walls. And some people feel more comfortable behind walls, and other people love to open those gates and bring people in. And hello to Renee in the chat room. It's good to see you, Renee. Um, and Sir Ed and myself and most of the people involved in Witch School always wanted to have those gates opened. We felt, and one of the reasons we started Witch School was we felt that if someone wanted to learn, they should have that opportunity. And how much they made of that opportunity, well, that was on them. But that the opportunity should be there seemed right to us. I've talked a lot about the old days, so to speak, and particularly people's misunderstandings or misapprehensions of what things were like back in the day. But it was very hard to find information back in the day if you didn't already have it. Um, I'm not quite sure what you would have done if you did not already know someone with some background. In my case, I came from a family with a background who were able to give me lots of information from which I was able to also do my own independent study. But if I hadn't had that, there were certainly places I could have found it in those days. There was the Man, Myth, and Magic magazine that was very popular um, in supermarkets at that time. There were books appearing here in Danville in central Illinois in local bookstores. So information was available if you knew to look for it, if you knew what you were looking for. Um, but even by the time we come to witch school, all those years later, many people really wanted to learn and could not find a teacher. The best thing they could do were books. Now, there's nothing wrong with books. Books are great. But if you can have an actual interaction with a person, it's going to be better. Um, I think the biggest thing that Witch School brought to the table was its community and its mentors who interacted directly with students. And it's been suggested that the class material was almost irrelevant next to that personal interaction. And at a certain level, I think that's true. It was the ability to be with other people of a like mind, other people who could answer questions, and people that you could talk with on a regular basis, which at that time was not so easy to find. Um, it was there, but it was just like the real time community. You had to know where it was to get into it. And sometimes it wasn't so easy to get into. But at Witch School, there was a very vibrant community, very welcoming to most people. And this is really, I think, the thing it most offered, together with the fact that it was at that time the cutting edge of technology. Now, in putting this together, Sir Edward made many sacrifices, did a lot of work. And like I say, in a lot of cases, particularly before it actually debuted, but even for the first couple of years afterwards, um, he got a lot of abuse over it, a lot of negative reactions over it. Um, and again, some people felt that it was a terrible idea, even though they'd never seen it, um, and had no clear idea how it was going to run. Some people thought it was something that should never be done. But today, 20 years later, there are online schools everywhere, and they've worked out just fine. But at the time, it was really breaking down some major barriers. It was a hugely impactful thing. Now, why am I bringing this up today? Well, this has a lot to do with the new project of Which College. And we've talked a little bit about that, and we'll talk a lot more about it in the future. But, it is kind of that same thing. It is a new approach and a new idea um, for how to teach. And in particular, here, how to teach online. And one of the things that makes it um, a new idea is that once again, it's relying on the newest technologies. And if you're paying at all attention to the world, you'll know that technology is changing quite rapidly. And quite recently, there have been some major changes. And yesterday's technological answer is not tomorrow's. And which college hopes to integrate tomorrow's answers today, much as Which School did 22 years ago. And this, together with having its own community based around a wider range of offerings, um, and hopefully constantly expanding range of offerings, is what makes which college different. It is, um, in its own way, I think, going to be just as revolutionary as which school was. And in some ways, you're going to have to see it to understand it once it's been created. Um, and we need your support to create it. I mean, we need people to want it to come to pass. We need people's financial support for it to come to pass. It will probably come to pass no matter what, but it'll come to pass faster with support. And you can see you can see what's happening again at witchstarter.com. And it is interesting to me, in particular, to see the different reaction the wider community is having to which college versus which school. Which school today is the seminary of the Corellian tradition, and it became that only over time. Originally, the idea behind which school was to include as much information about as many traditions as possible. But we found that a great many didn't really want um, to have any involvement at that time. And hello to Jade in the chat room. Good to see you, Jade. Um, I find as I'm watching things happening that that is not so much the case today. There are lots of people from lots of backgrounds um, who are going to be contributing their knowledge and their experience to which college, which is not really what happened with which school. With which school, um, if it had a primary focus on Corellianism, it's because we were the ones willing to work with it. The desire had been as broad a stream as possible. And which college I think is going to actually be able to provide that. I've seen lots of traditions um, and lots of um, lots of different backgrounds who have shown a willingness to have that greater involvement. So I think that you're going to find it a much broader experience and a much more interactive experience because of the differences in the technology. The thing that made the original Witch School as great as it was that interaction. You know, as I was saying, some people have suggested to me that the course materials were almost irrelevant compared to the personal interaction. And that's what Witch College will really be focusing on as well, having a high level of personal interaction, a high level of community for people, and a much more immediate experience. When Witch School was created, it was the state of the art. And for many years, it remained the state of the art. And I know that there is a desire for it to return to the state of the art. Um, but, you know, today classes are being offered in new formats that are different from the old formats, very often through video, very often um, making use of some of the new technological features that simply were not previously available. Sorry. Um, I think I may have mentioned I have my computer set up backwards from what it used to be, and every now and then my arm gets caught in my earphone, and so pardon that. But I think it's going to be a very exciting thing. And you know, I spend too much time on social media these days, um, and I follow lots of things on Instagram in particular that are making use of some of these new technologies. And it's just fascinating to see this change occurring and what it means um, for the future. And I'm really interested with how much we will be able to do with that new technology through which college. And it is fascinating to think about, well, you know, and I say this all the time, how much has changed over the years. And even since Witch School was started, technology has changed so much. And, you know, at Witch School, we made a lot of use out of multiple choice tests because we had no choice. When the school opened, it had 1,200 members at the very start. The first day, almost immediately, who came over from the Daily Spell platform, and not nearly enough people to be dealing with essay tests. And so we developed the multiple choice test out of necessity as the only way to deal with the number of people we were dealing with. And then they could talk to their mentors and ask whatever questions they had, just as you would in any other kind of teaching. But the whole thing was simplified through the multiple choice, which allowed the mentors to deal with the actual questions and allowed people to deal at their own pace with what they understood already. And I thought that was a huge development at that time. But now, um, with the development of AI technology and so many other things happening, how we can deal with students' questions has many more alternatives. How we can deal with getting information to students has many more alternatives than was the case 20 years ago. Much has changed. Now, Selena, hello, Selena, in the chat room. And Selena says, I'm very excited for this to be offered. I've been a lifetime member of Witch School. Although I've been one, although I've been one of your worst students, Witch School is amazing. I know which college is going to be equally successful. Thank you, Selena. And I think that you'll find that it will be just as amazing. And which school will continue to be amazing, and it will continue to go forward in its own bright future. Which college um, is a different project with, as I say, a different scope. And Selena says, I finally made it while you're alive. That's wonderful. Um, it is, and it's lovely to be able to talk to people live. And this is an example of the kind of new technology I'm talking about. I've been doing Magic TV since what, 2005? And I could never do something like this until only recent years. Um, to be able to sit here in in my office in Danville, talking into a camera and actually speaking live with people. Um, I mean, um, it's certainly an exciting thing for me. Now I know that technology has been here for a little while. And hello to Brenda in the chat room. It's good to see you, Brenda. And I know that there is a lot more that can be done than what I'm doing in this broadcast. But the fact that it can be done, I find extremely exciting. And I think as we go forward, I know that it's Sir Edward's goal to use the most modern technologies and continue to advance as they advance um, in which college. And I think that's going to make it a remarkable experience. I've talked about my belief that this development of technology has to do with something we have been teaching as long as I've been alive, and that's the idea that we are moving sequentially through um, the seven planes of being, our point of consciousness. Now, of course, we exist in all seven of them at once, but our point of consciousness is at a certain level, and for most humans, it's been in that mental plane, just beginning to work into the astral plane. And I think that this is part of that working into the astral plane, of making the astral experience an everyday experience. And we're experiencing it in this part of our lives as technology. But many of the things we're doing now through technology were formerly only possible through uh, magical and meditational and psychic experiences. And now they're becoming physical experiences. And everything that I'm seeing suggests that this is going to advance at a rapid pace. Um, we talk about things like telepathy that we have been able to learn to do spiritually for a long time, certainly, but now taking on a physical context that is perhaps a little easier to develop because you need the machine to do it. We're talking about, I think, an evolution of the human race, but also of the planet and of many other species on this planet, which I think we're going to be seeing all at once. And we talk about Sir Edward has pointed out to me that we keep talking about being in, I think it's the seventh, or the being in an extinction experience, but we're also in a rebirth experience, a renewal experience, because that's what all of these extinction experiences in the past have led to. And I think that for some of us, we will live to see a radically different world. Arguably we already do, but much more than just where we're at, and one in which things we formerly thought of as being purely magical have become technological and um, part of our everyday physical experience. Now, I know for some people who value the isolation and specialness of the magical world, that may not seem like such a great thing. But in my mind, that's what this whole journey is about, making our spiritual abilities into our physical abilities, of bringing these two things together more and more consciously. And I've written about this in numerous of my books. That my belief is that eventually everything that spirit can do will be expressed consciously in the physical world. Now, everything spirit can do is expressed now in the physical world, but unconsciously. But I believe that it's going to become a conscious thing. I don't expect that to be in our lifetime. But I didn't expect this to be in our lifetime either. I can remember back in the 60s and 70s, people were very excited, at least people that I knew were very excited by things like Star Trek and their expectations for the future. And we thought, maybe in a couple of hundred years, we'll be there. And as we all know, we're there. It did not take a couple of hundred years. It took a couple of decades. And so I no longer take bets against what I won't see in this lifetime. Um, Things are moving at such a speed and in such a way that a project that does not keep up with the edge of technology will quickly be left behind. Which college intends to always stay at that edge of new technology? And I see we're coming to the bottom of our hour. I want to take a moment to also mention that I am available for readings. We are currently coming on top of Samhain here in the Northern Hemisphere, and the thinning of the veil for the turning of the year. Of course, we also have the thinning of the veil around Beltane, but we normally think of it particularly here at Samhain. And it's an ideal time for a psychic reading. And if you'd be interested in a psychic reading, I am available to do tarot, to do clairvoyance, to do past lives, and also to do things like seances. And if you would be interested in having a reading, you can contact me through instant message at Facebook or at Instagram, or you can email me at donlewishp@aol.com, and we can set something up. And you can also support my work at Patreon at revdonlewis.com. And as I say, we're about to introduce a new feature there about which I will continue to talk, I'm sure, for some time. And and we also have all of our many offerings at Corellian Publishing, including the new book Travel Magic, which I think I will probably talk a little bit about tomorrow, um, because I have the most recent print copy in hand, and we're about to bring out the Book of the Dead. And the Book of the Dead has been in discussion for a long time, and I'm hopeful that people will enjoy it now that it's finally coming. And I want to thank all of you for joining me today. Selena says, my daughter and I will be contacting you for a reading later this year or by March 20th, my recently deceased mom's birthday. That's wonderful, Selena. And I'm so sorry to hear about your mother's crossing. But um, let us rejoice in her memory and her going forward. And I am very grateful for all of you. I love you all. I love doing this broadcast every day. It is a wonderful part of my life, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. So now let us close with our prayer, as we always do. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to help us to remain connected always to that time in which we live and the moment in which we live. Help us to remember that every moment is the now moment. Every moment is the chaos moment in which patterns may be broken and new patterns established. Help us to remember that every moment is the magical moment, the moment in which we can work our will in the world. And help us not to forget this. Beloved ones, we know you are with us always. We know that we are connected in one another's hearts. But from respect, we thank you for your presence here today at all times in our lives. And may you be blessed now and always. And may you be blessed now and always also. And I will see you tomorrow. And until next time, again, may you be blessed now and always.